Okie doke. I think we're live on Facebook. Hey, everybody. This is Kai Deering, and I'm here to share with you some tips, and I'm super excited about this subject today. We're going to talk about the breakout rooms, and we do some, so let me just back up here really quick. Today is Wednesday. What is the date? January 20th. And truth be told, it seems like yesterday, but literally it was 10 months ago that we made an incredible pivot. So we went from live events, once a week, super Saturdays and all that stuff to just pivot right away. So I'm going to share with you how we have taken the best aspects of a live event, translated them into a virtual event. And here's a couple of reasons why. And then I'm going to invite my dear friend, Chris Ward, who's been with me since the beginning of this pivot, to pick up anything that I might have missed. So the goal today is just really a couple fold. Number one, we have the best events in all of LegalShield when we have these breakout rooms, because we've been able to marriage the high touch with the high tech, which hadn't been done before. And I love corporate events, but they're high tech only, no high touch. It's like watching a TV show. And so I'm excited that not only did we make a quick pivot, but we also made these a high touch event, and they're unlike any other one. So all the regions and markets that have adopted this, that have done virtual circle ups after the events in separate breakout rooms with experts, are experiencing some pretty incredible growth. And I think this is really a secret weapon of what our events are up to. So why am I doing this Zoom? Well, number one is we need some more experts. I'm not kidding. When we do events, often there's a lot of guests. And if we only have a handful of folks that know how to participate in a breakout room as an expert, it really limits us. And then the second thing is we may be asking you to do some hosting or do the commands, and these are important tips too. So the number one reason is here, we need more people that can do these breakout rooms as an expert. So we're talking about how do you transition it over there. So I was having this conversation with Ohio, because they're doing it the way we're doing it. And how do you get people to come to the breakout rooms, and how does all that work out? So number one is it starts with the invite. So if I'm going to invite somebody to come take a look at some information, in a perfect world, right? They've seen a video before, they've had a three-way phone call, just like we did when things were live, right? They'd watch a video, maybe a 2.5, 12-minute, 30-minute video. Then they've done a three-way phone call to answer a couple questions. And now they're coming to the Zoom for confirmation, not information. Now, is that a perfect world? Yes. Have you ever invited somebody direct to the Zoom? Yes. As a matter of fact, I have, with varying levels of success, because if we haven't followed that system all the way through, often they drop off in the middle. They don't go to the breakout rooms when they get the invite. They quit. So when we do it right, about 75% of those guests will come to the breakout room. So they've seen something. Thanks, Chris. They see something, they've been on a three-way phone call, then they get it to a live event. If you short circuit that and they go straight to a live event, it is what it is. If I was live and I saw somebody in the lobby of the hotel and we were doing a hotel event, I would say, hey, and they said, what do you do? I'd say, come in right now. And I have invited people just cold to come in. It's not in a perfect world, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. I'd rather have a guest than not have a guest. That being said, the second part that'll really increase your success of them getting to the breakout room. The second thing is, this is a weird world for people, and some of them haven't even done Zoom. And if they have, it was only with their family members. Telling them what to expect. And I've got a lot of compliments from people that I've invited saying, hey, I was an event planner. I really appreciate the fact how you told me what to expect. So here's what I say. I say it's at 2. Let's say it's at 2, or it's at 7, and it's 30 to 45 minutes. And the good news is we'll do Q&A afterwards. And you're welcome to pop on up to about 10 or 15 minutes early, make sure all your equipment's working, and meet all of our friends and some of the family that, if this makes sense, you'd be working with. Now, they love that. It takes all the angst out. They know exactly what to expect. So I'm going to highly recommend, number one, you properly expose them. But number two, right, you set up the expectation. So great. It's 2 to about 2:30, 2:45. Preferably it's 2:30. I'd rather, under promise and over deliver. Like nobody's mad if you're done early, right? So I say, 30 to 45 minutes. And then I don't even really necessarily say there's going to be a breakout room, but then I say, we're going to circle up and get all your questions answered by some of the hot shots you're going to see there. So exactly like I would do in a live event. So setting that up is huge. And please pop on up to 10 to 15 minutes early, make sure all your equipment's working and you can meet everybody. And, if they own a business, you could tell them, hey, it's a great opportunity for you to network a little bit before. Okay. So now you're set up. There will be a host of the events, at least that we do, where the host, and on their tag, it'll say, actually, I think I'm hosting today. So it would say Kai Deering host or host Kai Deering. So when you look to go to chat with somebody, and this is the other thing, is as associates, you're going to have to know how to use your chat feature, imperative in this process. You can go to the chat feature, and you know how there's like a little search bar right there. Type in the word host, and the person who's a host should pop right up. Now from there, there's a drop down menu. You can chat with them, right? So you could say, hey, my guest is here. So here's what happens is, just like you would do at the pre-event and a live event, your guest shows up 10 or 15 minutes early. You kind of cocktail with them, walk them around, introduce them to people. Same thing here. So I had a guest yesterday. I said, hey, everybody, this is Kevin. Ironically, he just got laid off from Rocket Lawyer. I thought that was kind of funny. And he needs a severance package reviewed and is looking at, potentially a second career. Would love for everybody to meet him. Hey, and everyone's like, oh, hey, Kevin. They make him feel good, yada, yada, yada. Now, there's not a lot of times because there's a lot of guests. We got to be careful, especially if we're associates, as monopolizing that 10 or 15 minutes. And I've seen it happen before. Like, oh, there's a brand new associate on the line. Hey, associate. It's like, yeah, I got started 2 days ago and I did this and I did that. Like, listen, this is not about associates. This is about the guest, remember? So we're going to make that new person feel good, but don't be afraid if you're the host or doing the commands to just say, hey, you know what? That's so great. Listen, we only have a couple of minutes. We want to make sure we get to everybody to say hello. We just don't want to offend them, but it helps if we can go to the guest. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let everybody know that in a perfect world, at least in our markets, when you're doing this, we want an A at the end of your name if you're an associate. Why? Because when we go to breakout rooms, our events always have a training afterwards. So it's just so easy to put you in a training room. Now, if you don't have a guest, right, you're going to put the A. If you do have a guest, you're just going to put nothing. And here's why this is so important, because sometimes people show up late. So your guest might show up after the event started. You don't have an A by your name. So at the end, we're going to leave you on the screen, and you're going to be on the screen with people who we don't know who they are. So let's say I know that it's Chris Ward. He doesn't have an A at the end of his name, but there's all these other names I don't know. I'm assuming that maybe one of those guests are Chris and he just didn't tell me. Now, if your guest comes on late, you should tell the host, hey, host, you private chat them. Hey, host, my guest Kevin's here, just so you know, and we'll rename your person as Chris's guest, space dash space, the associate's name. Now, why do we put Chris's name first? Because then when we go to do the breakout rooms, it'll be Chris Ward, Chris's guest, Chris's guest, Chris's guest, like they're all right together. It just makes it so much easier to pop them in a breakout room. If you've already ahead of time, just like you would in a live event, had an expert. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that Chris has a guest and he has told me before, hey, Kai, I have a guest tonight, today, whatever. Would you be my expert? Now, if I've got a guest, I'm going to have to say, I can't, I got a guest. He's going to say, if I don't have a guest, I'll say, yeah, I'll go in your room. So he or myself or both of us are going to tell the host, like Chris would say, hey, I'm the host, or whoever's the host. So you can type in their host. The host shows up. He's going to text or private chat them. Hey, my guest Frank just showed up. Please put me, my guest Frank, and Kai in a breakout room. That way the host who's doing the commands, and the host may not be the person that's introducing, because in our marketplace, at least on Wednesday nights, sometimes the person who's doing the commands is not always the person that's introducing them. So the person that's doing the commands will have the host, so they'll know where to put them. So let them know. Now, let's say that you get on there and you forgot to get an advance of who was a expert for you, right? The host, as their job, part of the host job is to make sure there's an expert in every room. So I'll give you an example. I had, I needed an expert, let's say in Amy Doyle's room. And there was a choice between, it was like Zarina and Tracy Broughton. And because you want to match a mirror, right? So I said, hey, I have a guest too. Amy, you have a guest. I let her have first choice, because it would be better to match and mirror her guest. Who would you like in your room? And I think her person had kids. So she took Tracy because Tracy had kids. Perfect. Zarina, doesn't have kids yet. So I took her in my room, and I think my guest didn't have kids either. So, you kind of want to match and mirror. And so the host who's doing the commands will help you find a person, and it's all in the chat. So you got to really be paying attention to the chat and be paying attention to make sure you're not broadcasting to all, that you're broadcasting to who you want to broadcast to. So be very mindful of who your chat's going to. So now this is going on behind the scenes while the whole presentation is going out. The host doing the commands is putting together guest rooms, right? Guest room, they can use either the associate's name. I like to do numbers just because for me personally, I don't want to have a room with my name on it because what if, nobody wants to be somebody's whatever. So anyway, I just put guest room number 1, 2, 3, 4. That way I put the Chris's 3 guests in there with Chris. Hey, Chris, did you have an expert? Do you need me to find you one? He might say who's available. I'll say, okay, let me find out really quick. Cause I kind of know already. It'd be easier for me to find him an expert because I know who's already in the rooms. I'm like, okay, so-and-so's in the room. And so why is this so important that you put an A, that you tell us what you're doing? Because give you an example, let's say I'm hosting and I have a guest, and this did happen. So I had a guest and I'm hosting. The faster I can get over to my room with my guest, it's just the better for my business. And it's impolite to mess up somebody. So this is why it's so important we do that. So I'll give you an example. I had a guest, I put Zarina in my room and I chatted to Zarina. Hey, Zarina, I'm hosting. It might take me a minute to get over there. Could you please, help me out? So she went over there, she was helping me out. And then it took me a long time to get over there because there were so many people on the screen that I'd been chatting privately. Hey, are you a guest? Are you associate? Hey, associate, do you want to go to the training room? And they weren't responding. So it's really important that we play team on this because it took me a good, 5 minutes to get over to my guest, where Zarina was helping me out. So it's just really, really important that we put the A. And so somebody said to me, I'm not going to the breakout. I have an appointment immediately following. So they didn't put an A. I don't care if you're going to the breakout for real or not. Put an A so that the person that's doing the commands isn't going to be stressed out about where to put you. So let's say Marcia Shea says, I'm not staying for the training afterwards. I don't have a guest. I'm leaving. She should still put an A at the end of her name. I don't need to know that she's not going to the training. I just need to be able to have everybody in a room. So when I hit enter, I can go be with my guest really fast or help be the expert for somebody else because we may not have enough experts around. So it's just really important that we play team on this. So once everybody is kind of in their rooms, then the host can finally do whatever they need to do, whether it's go into a room, go join them in the training, which I often just go join in the training. As a host, you can still see, if somebody goes back out, because if you're in the wrong room, it's no big deal. Just go out. Don't leave meeting, leave room. You'll go back to the main room and tell them. The other thing that's really slick. So let's talk about these breakout rooms. What's really slick about these breakout rooms, a couple things. So in my opinion, less is more. We've done this for 10 months now. We've gotten really good at it. But if there is, I like one guest, 2 associates, the associate that invited them out and the expert. That's it. Because what happens is if you get too many people in that breakout room, and you want to ask him, hey, why are you getting started? That's really important, right? Hey, great to meet you. You're the expert. Hey, tell me a little bit about what you like best. So first of all, what'd you like best, right? What'd you like best? That's the number one thing we always say. What'd you like best? What was your favorite thing today? They tell you. Maybe you need to build rapport just for a hot second before, how do you guys know each other? But prayerfully, the person who you're the expert in their room, that associate has been texting you saying, oh, my guest is a single mom. My guest is an entrepreneur. Hopefully I was on early because I'm an expert. I want to be on 15 minutes early. I met them early. I know who they are. I know what they look like. I've gotten introduced to them. So I don't have to ask a bunch of questions. This is the other reason why showing up on time is so important, because that way you can network and know who's got guests and what's going on. So what's really interesting is when you are going to these breakout rooms as an expert, you just want to make sure that we know how to do this. So this is what you're going to do if you're an expert. So number one, build a little bit of rapport. And so if you don't know, how they met or whatever, oh, great. Hi, yeah, my name's Kai. And hopefully you did a testimonial. If you didn't, the associate who invited you in. So here's what happens. The associate invited you into the room, or you're in the room. Let's say you didn't do a testimonial that day. Here's what you're going to say. You're going to say, this happened with Amy. So Amy was the guest. Just so you know, I've had 8 guests in 8 days, including the weekends. So you think I have 2 or 3 guests every single day for over a week right now. So I had Amy in my room. And the guest didn't know Amy because she didn't do a testimonial that day. And all I did was I said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Guest, hey, listen, I wanted to invite Amy in here to share. She's got an incredible story. You didn't get to hear from her earlier today. Amy Doyle, would you mind just sharing a little bit about what's happened to you? She does her 30-second testimonial. So now we've added credibility. She then will say, if I have already told her how we met, so like, hey, here's so and such, to build that rapport after she told her story, is she's just going to say, oh, I've heard some great things about you from Ms. Deering. And then she's going to edify, right? She's going to edify back to me. Oh my gosh, Ms. Deering, she's amazing. It's so great you two connected. Okay. Then now it's her lead. So she's going to say, and this is where we need to know. So number one, if you haven't told your story, tell your story, build rapport, edify back to the associate really quick. And then you're going to say, what did you like best? So it goes something like this. Hey, Chris Ward, this is my expert, Amy Doyle. I know she didn't get a chance to hear from her, but she's a total hotshot. Ms. Doyle, will you share with Chris Ward, kind of how, what's happened for you? Yeah, I did X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. Hey, I have actually heard some great things about you. I understand you're an activist. I understand you're da-da-da-da. Congratulations on all your success. And I'm not sure how you met, Ms. Deering, but very fortuitous. She's amazing. She's doing great things with the company. But hey, listen, let me ask you a quick question. What'd you like best? That's it. What'd you like best? So those three things up front, right? Your story, if you didn't already tell it, rapport, edify back. And by the way, what'd you like best about what you saw today? What was your favorite part? They'll tell you what their favorite part is. Then you're going to go into the 4-part close. And this is it. And I have seen all kinds of whack things where like people say, oh, you could tell us in a week. I'm like, what? Right? So you want to have urgency here, right? You don't want to be obnoxious and hard close people because it's not fun either. And if you've got that reputation for a hard closer, there's a guy that, I don't like having in my room because he hard closes my people and it makes me uncomfortable. So it's a nuance here. You can't mess with other people's money. You got to do this right. So it would be like this. Hey, what'd you like best? It's me too. That's me too. That's awesome. If they're really, really positive, you can just close it out. Do you see yourself as a member and an associate or just a member? They're like, yeah, just a member. Let me use the membership for a little bit, make sure it works. Okay, great. Perfect, right? So this is what I'm telling you. If what do you like best? It's smoking hot. They're all about it. They're jacked out of their head. Great. Do you see yourself as a member and an associate? Or welcome to the team. You made a great decision. Don't be afraid to go for the jugular right there. So I go in a room, I'm like, hey, I'm the expert. What'd you like best? Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this. I've heard about this. I kept trying to find somebody about this. I finally found somebody, Chris Ward, online. I couldn't believe my good fortune. I'm so excited. I really want to make something of my life. Am I going to go into a 4-part close? No. I'm going to say, oh my gosh, welcome to the team. Welcome to the family. You made an incredible decision. Blah, 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 blah. So what'd you like best? Oh, I like this. I like that. I like this. I think it's okay if it sounds a little hesitant. Great. You can ask for questions. What kind of questions do you have for me? Okay, great. So it might be, I don't really have any questions. Okay, great. So then I go into literally the 4-part close. So I'm going to say, great. If you were to work with us, how much money would you need to make part-time? Right? They're going to tell you, I would need to make $1,000 a month. Okay, great. So how much, right? Number two, for $1,000 a month, how many hours do you have, right, to work with us? How many hours, like in a week, do you have to work with us? Yeah, well, I have a full-time job right now, or I'm laid off, or oh, whatever, right? How much time, right? Then the next question is, so they say I have 5 hours or whatever. Great. So if I could show you a way that you can make $1,000 working, however many hours a week with us, how long would you be willing to work with us to get ramped up to that? So they might say 30 days, 90 days, whatever. So again, it's how much, how many hours do you have? How long would you be willing, knowing there's a learning curve, would you be willing to work with us? The fourth part of that question is, you're going to repeat it all back to them. So Chris Ward, if I could show you, we can make $1,000 a month, working 15 hours a week, and you'd give us 90 days to do that. Is there any reason why you wouldn't get started today? No. Great. Congratulations. You made a great decision. I also think in there somewhere, you should probably weave in why, right? So if they say, yeah, I want to be a member and an associate. Great. What's the first thing you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Ask them when they tell you how much. Like, I want to make $1,000 a month. Really? That's awesome. $1,000 a month. Why? Weave that into that 4-part question. What would $1,000, that's awesome. What would $1,000 extra a month do for you and your family right now? What would an extra $1,000? Now, Chris Ward might say, I'll be able to date a little bit better. I'm just kidding, Chris. And Chris Ward's going to be joining us here in just a minute. So hopefully he's coming on here in a second. But think about this. This is the 4-part close. Now, couple of nuances here as we're waiting for Chris to get on. Number one, let's say, for instance, I'm doing the commands, Amy's doing the commands, Chris is doing the commands, and we have a new associate on the team, and they're like frontline to us. So let's just say in my example, it's me, I'm hosting. Danielle's a brand new associate. She has a guest on the line. Now I'm hosting, I'm doing the commands. I cannot pop over there right away. Like I have to put everybody in all their rooms and deal with it all. So I might put in the room Doris James Taylor. So Doris goes into the room. Hey, Chris, I'm gonna let you in right now. So let's just say Doris James Taylor is in the room helping with my brand new associate and their guests. Hey, Chris Ward. So let me just finish this caveat. So Chris, I'm talking about how I'm hosting. I have a brand new associate with a guest. I can't be the expert right away because I got to get everyone in their rooms first. So I say to Doris, Doris, will you help out my new associate Danielle with her guest? I put the three of them in that room right there. Now everybody gets put to where they need to go. I go ahead and join that room now because I needed to do the commands. I join the room. Now, Doris should, because just like in a real live circle up, if I'm circled up with a bunch of people and the speaker or somebody higher ranking or somebody with a bigger check walks into the circle up, do you ignore that person?
Absolutely not. You got to
No.
immediately edify the person with the biggest wallet.
And hush up. So when that happens, I'm flabbergasted that I go into a room of my associate with their guest because I couldn't get in there right away. I just needed help. Now, my bad. I should have, this never happened with Doris, by the way. I should, put a text into that person and say, hey, I'm going to be in there in a minute. Could you start it off? That was my bad. But when I got in there, they're not even qualified senior director and they just kept talking and I'm in the room with my guest and I could feel my blood pressure going up and going, okay, so what she should have done, and it wasn't Doris, by the way, she should have said, hey, Ms. Deering, I'm so glad you finally made it over. Let me turn it back over to you. And she could even leave and go to the training and say, hey, thank you so much, I'm out. So that was one caveat. Second caveat is we want to sign them up in the guest room. So just like in a live circle up, right? If you don't get them to sign up right there, how many people agree you're going to be chasing? And then I'm going to turn over to Chris to put in some comments. So we want to sign them up right there. Now, Zoom has made it that you have to be a co-host to sign up. So if I had a guest, not only would I tell the person running the commands, here's my guest, here's who I want in my guest room. Also, could you please make me a co-host before we go to our breakout room so I can sign my guest up? Because the whole point is, if you do the 4-point clause as the expert, I say, great, I've done everything, right? I told my story, I built rapport, I edified back to the associate, I asked what you like best, I did the 4-point clause, how much money do you want to make and why? How many hours do you have? How much time will you ramp up with us? If I could show you a way to do all this for us, is there any reason why you wouldn't get started? No, I'm ready to get started. I would say, great. Chris Ward then is going to screen share with you right now, bring up his website and not sign you up, but get you registered right now as a member and associate so you can start inviting people to these corporate Zooms every single day at 4 and 6 p.m., as well as like the ones that your team does or your region or whatever. So you're helping direct that. Now, here's what I would do. I would make sure they pull up their website, make sure, and as soon as they're got everything in the shopping cart and they're all ready to go, there's no need for you as an expert to be there. So you could pop out into the main room, leave room, tell the person doing the commands, or maybe you're doing the commands, and pop into another room, right? Because like live, I would go to multiple people's circle ups and say hi, pop into another person's room. Hey, just wanted to welcome you to the team, pop over to the training, say hi to everyone over in the training, like go back to the training. And if they're, I'm just telling you, this is going to be awesome. Now, some people, another caveat, so I got 3 caveats. I'm going to turn it over to Chris. Third caveat is, let's say you've got an associate who's just maybe short on cash right now or hasn't ready to get started, but they don't need to go to a breakout room. So they're a guest. They're technically a guest, but they don't need to go to the breakout room. You could still put Chris's guest, space, the host can, and put an A at the end of their name. So we know they're a guest. We know they're not signed up, which is important, right? And we throw them to the training. Why is that important? Because now they're in the training, I know they're not just an associate, they're a guest, either kind of looking at how do I get paid and promoted, or because we do the 3 steps to 2,500 with Murph every single time. And Chris is a big proponent for doing that every single time because it's spaced repetition. But now we know that they're guests and we can treat them a little differently. Like, hey, did you have any questions so-and-so, before? Like, we're going to be helping them close them while they're in there. So those are a few of the caveats. I know this is a lot of information and you should listen to it over and over and over again. But in the 5 minutes we have remaining, I want to know if, Chris, did I miss anything? Because you're a master at all this.
No, I mean, I think that you nailed it all. I just wanted to, because you can tell if a person's been properly prepped prior, and I'm glad that you addressed that, because even if an associate, if you can't be there, you should feel free to be able to invite guests out, but coordinate with somebody that will be on the call. And you can see who the usual suspects are Monday through Friday. So just reach out and say, Miss Daring, Mr. Ward, I can't be there today, but I've got a guest, Peter, who's going to be on the call. Will you welcome him? And that way we can, when he jumps on, hey, Peter, and it's even better to do a three-way call to verify that they're going to be there. That way, just be like, hey, Peter, I want to introduce you to Mr. Ward. Mr. Ward's going to be on the call today, and he'll accept you. That way I can be excited when Peter jumps on. I'm not like, hey, Peter, are you an associate or guest? Or who invited you out? Because Peter may, especially if he's never seen anything before, even if he's an associate, he's going to say he's a guest, because I can tell usually after the fact, and then also, if you don't properly edify the speaker and talk about the event, I can tell the guests who just logged on because you asked them to, probably turned off their camera and went and did something else, because when the presentation's over and I'm sending people into guest rooms, the associates and guests that are still in the main room that I cannot get their attention for anything, they've not added, they're taking up my time, because I may have to move people around in rooms and I'm still trying to figure out who is in the main room. So properly edifying the event in of itself, because even associates, if you're not going to be on there and participating, don't get on there, because I think it really takes away from the event. And we can tell, if you're not paying attention because your camera's off and then you never jump into the rooms after we're done. So
that's a really good point. And, as the person doing the commands, we've told them, put them in the waiting room. Don't remove them, but put them in the waiting room, because we got to go. I mean, this is money. This is like afterwards the payday. This is why that A is important. This is why, telling us your guests so that we're not fumbling at the end, because this is game time. This is like where the money is made and we got to go. And so it's super important. So number one, we need more hosts. We need more people that are qualified to be experts. Is there anything else, Chris, that I love it, because I forgot about that. This is why I brought you on at the end, because I know I forgot some things. Anything else that we forgot, or anything else that we need to hammer home?
the only thing I would encourage associates, that this may not be your full-time income, you may be working part-time, but if you can dedicate just one day out of the week to one of our daily Zooms, or if you can't, you should have a live opportunity overview, whether that be a corporate Zoom or a team Zoom or your regional Zoom, that you make as a part of your weekly regimen. Like, it does not get off your calendar, because we used to do that when we ran live events. So treat one of these, that you don't have to be on Monday through Friday, but choose a day, if you can, be on there the same time every week, because now we can anticipate you. But if we never know when you're going to be on or when you're not, we're reluctant to rely on you for testimonies or hosting or do anything like that. So that's the only other thing.
That's a really good point. And it's always been one night a week, one Saturday a month, 3 weekends a year, right? Your team and your corporate leadership and the convention one. So if it were me and I worked Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I would do maybe Wednesday night with us, if in Northern California, because we run a smoking hot event. So be careful where you're going to plug into. We have breakout rooms. We have music before. We have 50, 60 people on there. We have experts. We really know how to run a tight ship. So if you're on the right time zone, or if you're working nights, right, Chris, that's a good point. Pick a Monday through Friday for, let's say, like your team Zoom, if it's a high touch one, or ours, and make sure that you're plugged into that. That's my day, Wednesday. Yeah, really, really great point. That's why I have you on here, because you're awesome. Anything else before we've gone a little bit long here, but I actually, I didn't record this. Dang it. Chris, maybe you can help me out, because I meant to record this so we could put this onto all of our team pages as well, because Ohio wants this on their page. I want this on NorCal. Can you give me a hookup, because I forgot to hit record?
I can rip the video.
Thank you. And then you could put on Colorado's, right? Because this is, if they're doing breakout rooms, and in my opinion, Chris, I know you feel the same way. Everybody who's doing an event other than corporate should do breakout rooms. It is exactly like it's live. You cocktail for 15 minutes, be sure you're early, right? So what if your guest gets there before you? How embarrassing, just like in real life, right? So we tell them get on 10 minutes early, but we're on 15 minutes early, right? So we're there to make sure they're there. You cocktail with them. It starts right on time. It finishes 30 to 45 minutes later. They're expecting to get their questions answered. We told them to take notes, right? The host has set it up. We're going to go into breakout rooms afterwards to get your questions answered, take notes. Everything has already been set up. There's no surprises. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows how to act. And we're going to take this company to a whole nother level. We had, what is it, record breaking recruiting and membership sales over the last 10 years. We've had the highest on record in 48 years of being a company with active members on the books. There's no reason why we can't just double, triple, as Grant Cardone says, 10x that with these top flight events. Chris, anything else you want to add, my dear?
The only other thing I forgot is just for the associates, like she just said, was you want to be in there before your guests, because the things that come out of your guests' mouths, I think sometimes are embarrassing for the inviting associate, because I've had guests enter the room and say, I don't know what this is. I don't know why I'm here.
I don't even know who invited me.
What's that?
I don't know who invited me.
I don't know who invited me. Folks, you are not doing a good enough job of relationship building if your guest does not know your name. And we deal with that all the time. And we're playing Clue here. I'm like, so what state do they reside in? Or what is, we start asking questions because we're not trying, we want to hook you up, but that's why you got to be there first. So you can be like, hey, Bob, nice to see you get in here. That way you can catch your guest before they start dragging you through the mud. So get in there.
Yeah, we really need to up level, because if we could just like do a 1% tweak with all the information we just gave you. And I would listen to this over and over and over and over and over again, because there are so many hacks in here from 10 months of us doing this. I don't think I've ever missed a day of doing this. So not only is it 10 months of experience of us doing it, I personally have done this 6 times a week, 5 with our team, 1 with our region, 6 times a week for 10 months. Like, trust us. Chris has been there right along with me. We know what we're doing. And this is the best way to take all of those principles that we did when we did live. And this is almost exactly like a live event. It's bad to the bone. I love it. Anything else, sir? That was a good point.
Great job, Ms. Deering, as always.
All right. Love you. Thank you for popping on at the end. I appreciate you more than you know. And if you could rip this and we'll get it circulated to many people that are doing the breakout rooms, we'd appreciate it. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.